My name is Claire, and I'm 20 years old. I keep replaying the same night over and over in my head, like if I watch it enough times maybe I can change something about it, maybe I can rewrite the way my life cracked open in one terrible moment. This is hard to say out loud. Harder than I expected. Because once you admit the truth about yourself, there's no putting it back in the dark where it can't hurt you. The truth is, I cheated on my husband. And not in some careless, heat-of-the-moment way you read about in cheap magazines. It wasn't like that. It was slower. Softer. 1,000 tiny silences between us before it ever happened. Our marriage wasn't always like this. God, when Mark and I first met, everything about him felt safe and electric at the same time. I used to crave the sound of his voice, the way he'd brush his thumb along my jaw before kissing me like I was the only thing in his world worth holding on to. We had this chemistry, the kind you can feel in your bones, that made everything feel alive. Even the way he'd tuck a strand of my hair behind my ear made my stomach flip. But over the years, something shifted. It's hard to pinpoint when exactly, but it was like watching paint fade on a wall. You don't notice the dullness until one day you wake up and realize the color is just gone. At first, it was small things. Kisses that used to linger now barely brushed my lips before disappearing. His hugs felt tighter, like he was holding on out of habit, not desire. Even the way we cuddled in bed changed. Our legs used to tangle together like we couldn't get close enough, but eventually, he'd roll away, claiming he was too warm, leaving me staring at the ceiling with this hollow feeling in my chest. I told myself it was normal. That marriage settles. That maybe passion was supposed to fade, and what mattered was the quiet comfort of routine. But deep down, I missed him. Not just physically, though God knows I missed that too. I missed the way he used to look at me like I was still his favorite part of the day. I missed laughing until we couldn't breathe. I missed feeling wanted. There was one evening, it stays with me like a splinter under the skin. I'd made his favorite dinner. Candlelight, music, the whole thing, because I thought maybe if I created the right moment, we'd find each other again. Afterward, we sat on the couch, close but not touching. I leaned into him, resting my head on his shoulder. He kissed the top of my hair. A small, almost distracted kiss. And for some reason, it broke me. Because it didn't feel like love. It felt like duty. That was the moment. Right there. Sitting beside my husband of 11 years, with the taste of wine on my tongue and the smell of his cologne in the air, I realized something had changed between us, and maybe in me too. I didn't know it yet, but that was the night the ground under our marriage began to crack. I wish I could tell you things got better after that night. That we talked, that I told Mark how lonely I was feeling, that he reached for me and promised to try. But the truth is, we just drifted. It's a strange kind of heartbreak, the quiet kind. There wasn't any screaming or slammed doors. Just long silences over dinner. Kisses on the cheek instead of the mouth. The way he started falling asleep with his back to me, while I lay awake, listening to the rhythm of his breathing and feeling like we were living in two different worlds under the same roof. I told myself I didn't need more. That this was marriage. That people don't stay in love forever, they stay in responsibility, in history, in whatever's left after the fire burns out. But deep inside, I was starving. I started lingering at work longer than I needed to. Not because I loved my job, I didn't, but because it was easier than going home to the emptiness waiting for me there. That's how I met Daniel. He wasn't special at first. Just a coworker with an easy smile who always asked how my day was going. But the thing is, he looked at me. Like he actually saw me. Like I wasn't just some background character in my own life. The first time he touched me, it wasn't even romantic. He brushed a piece of lint off my sweater and his fingers grazed my arm. Such a small thing, but I felt it all the way down my spine. And that scared me. Because I realized I was craving any kind of tenderness, even from someone who wasn't my husband. For weeks, it was nothing more than harmless conversations. Coffee breaks. Sharing jokes. I told myself I was imagining the way my heart beat faster when he stood close, the way my breath caught when his hand rested on the small of my back as we walked through a doorway. But then one night, after everyone else had left the office, he kissed me. It wasn't even a good kiss. Too sudden. Too nervous. But I kissed him back. I wish I could explain why. I wish I could tell you it was because Mark had hurt me or because I'd fallen in love with someone else. But the truth was simpler and uglier. I just wanted to feel something again. I didn't plan for it to turn into an affair. I didn't plan for it to happen more than once. But it did. And the whole time, I felt this sick mix of guilt and hunger twisting inside me. Because while Mark barely touched me anymore, Daniel couldn't seem to stop. His hands, his mouth, his voice, all the things I'd been missing at home, he gave me in ways that made me feel alive again. Until the night it all came crashing down. I won't tell you the details yet. Not the fight. Not the accident. Not the way I ended up in that hospital bed with everyone begging Mark to forgive me while I stared at the ceiling, wondering when my life had turned into a story I didn't recognize. But I will tell you this. It didn't start in the hospital. It didn't even start with Daniel. It started the night my husband kissed the top of my head like I was someone he used to love, and I realized I didn't know how to find my way back to him anymore. The night everything came to light feels like a blur now, like someone shook the snow globe of my life and left all the pieces swirling. Mark found out about Daniel on a Tuesday. I'd come home late, too late, and he was waiting for me. Not angry, not shouting, just quiet. That was worse, somehow. He asked me if there was someone else. I opened my mouth to lie, but nothing came out. Because in that moment, seeing the way his hands trembled, the way his eyes searched mine like maybe he could still find the woman he married hiding in there somewhere, I couldn't do it. I told him the truth. And then the shouting came. The accusations. The kind of words you can't take back once they're out in the air between you. I grabbed my coat. I needed air. Space. Anything but the walls closing in around us. I don't remember much about getting in the car. Just the sound of my heart pounding in my ears, the tears blurring my vision, the way the streetlights turned into streaks of gold through the windshield. The crash came out of nowhere. A truck ran the red light. And suddenly there was metal and glass and the taste of blood in my mouth. When I woke up in the hospital, my body felt like it belonged to someone else. Tubes, wires, the steady beep of machines. And through the haze of painkillers, voices. My mother. My sister. Someone crying. And Mark. He was sitting by the bed, holding my hand like he was afraid I might disappear if he let go. Everyone kept saying he should forgive me. That I'd made a mistake. That love was bigger than betrayal. But I could see it in his eyes, something had cracked wide open inside him, the same way it had in me months before. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet. Claire. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. And there it was. The thing I'd been dreading since the night of the first kiss. Because it wasn't just about the affair. It was about everything that had led to it. The years of silence, the nights we stopped touching, the love that slipped through our fingers while neither of us was paying attention. I wanted to tell him I was sorry. That I was broken long before I broke us. That maybe if we had reached for each other sooner, things would have been different. But lying there in that hospital bed, with his hand still wrapped around mine, I realized sorry wasn't enough. Some things you can't undo. Some cracks run too deep. And maybe this was one of them. The doctors said I was lucky. A few broken ribs, a concussion, some stitches. It could have been so much worse. But lying in that hospital bed, with the smell of antiseptic in the air and the echo of Mark's words in my head, I didn't feel lucky at all. Mark stayed for 3 nights straight. He slept in the recliner beside my bed, arms crossed over his chest, head tilted at an awkward angle. He looked like a man trapped between wanting to leave and not knowing how. I tried talking to him once, late at night when the nurses had stopped coming in and the world felt smaller, quieter. "Mark," I whispered, "I don't even know how to begin to tell you how sorry I am." He didn't look at me. "Claire, I don't think it's about sorry anymore." Those words cut deeper than anything else. Because I knew he was right. Sorry didn't erase the years of loneliness I never told him about. Sorry didn't undo the nights he turned away in bed while I stared at the ceiling, aching for him to reach for me. Sorry didn't change the way I had crossed a line I could never uncross. And somewhere deep down, I knew it wasn't just the affair that broke us. It was the slow unraveling of two people who stopped being each other's safe place long before anyone else was involved. The day I was discharged, he helped me into the car. His hands were gentle, careful, like I was made of glass. But his eyes were distant. At home, everything felt the same and nothing did. My coffee mug was still on the counter. His shoes by the door. The smell of laundry detergent lingering in the hallway. But we moved around each other like ghosts. He didn't yell. He didn't accuse. He didn't ask questions. And somehow, that silence was worse than all the shouting in the world. A week later, he finally said what I think we both already knew. "Claire, I don't hate you," he said, his voice quiet, even. "But I can't forgive you. Not right now. Maybe not ever." And I nodded. Because what else was there to say? I'd wanted him to fight for us. To shout, to cry, to tell me we could fix this if we tried hard enough. But he didn't. He just stood there in the kitchen, the sunlight coming in through the blinds, his face lined with exhaustion and something I couldn't quite name. And that's when it hit me. The accident hadn't destroyed us. The affair hadn't destroyed us. We were already gone long before any of it happened. The hospital, the begging, the guilt, it was just the final crack in something that had been breaking for years. And maybe some things really do break beyond repair.